Welcome everyone to another quilt story. Today I'm very excited because I'm talking to Hollis Chatelain, whose work I have admired for years and years. So welcome, Hollis.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here.
We've just been having a little chat beforehand, and Hollis apologized for her dogs barking. Would you like to tell us why your dogs were barking?
Okay, so I have a coonhound. It's a black and tan coonhound who has a very sharp bay. I think that a deer must have been hit on the road. I live out in the country, and it died in the woods right near our house. And today we counted between 12 and 15 vultures who were there eating the deer. And then the dogs are just going crazy, running around and around and around. So we don't really want to let the dog go out because then he will chase the vultures. So
Absolutely out of my realm of experience. But we also can't hesitate to mention your amazing glasses.
oh yeah. Yes, my daughter Karen lives in Los Angeles, and she moved there from North Carolina in order to make it as a designer. And so she designs glasses and earrings and head wraps, and she actually designed a head wrap for Beyonce, and she was at Beyonce's shower for her twins, and she did everybody's head wraps and glasses, and so she regularly sends me glasses.
You've got a few more that you can show us?
Oh yes, I have lots of them. She sells them, and if you're ever interested in going out and just drawing people in to talk to you, this is the way to do it, because these she calls the Phoebe glasses, because I took a picture of my dog wearing these, which I just think are beautiful. And you can send her your cheaters and she will do them up in any way that you would like. Or if you would just like to have some wild sunglasses, she has all kinds. These look great with a mask. They do say, wow, look at that. And then I really also like the chilies that she made.
Oh yes, I definitely like the chilies.
Yeah.
Okay, so which pair are you going to wear for our chat?
These are what I usually wear. She made these for me. And no, these little headlights right there, they do not interrupt my vision at all. They don't. You would think they would, but they really don't.
I guess we should talk about quilts. This is a very powerful quilt. I mean, you're known for your powerful quilts. So would you like to tell us a little bit about the background, inspiration?
In 2014, I had a dream in hot pink that my daughter Nadia was standing in a field, and she had a baby on her hip, and she was wearing a business suit, and she was looking directly at the viewer with a very challenging look. And my daughter is a very smiling person, but she wasn't smiling in the dream. It was like she was saying, I can do this, don't challenge me. And as I approached it in my dream, I could see in the background that there were all of these quotes about women. It was quite interesting to me because, I woke up, I've been having these dreams for the last 20 years, and I thought about it. I thought, hot pink, that is just really odd. And I got my daughter and I took a picture of her, and here she is, and that's actually my granddaughter, her niece. Nadia, my daughter, does not have children, but that is her niece Mila, and so I photographed them in the backyard, and then I did my drawing from that. And
is it traced?
No, this is a drawing. I do small drawings, so this is an actual drawing. But then when I finish with the drawing, I go around all of the areas of the light and the dark areas, the shadows and the highlights. And one of the reasons I really prefer to do my own drawings is I just believe that a drawing is more emotional when it's not perfect. It looks less mechanical if it's not traced. But the other thing is I do the drawing first, then I trace that onto a transparency, then I photocopy that and make it smaller, and then I put it in an overhead projector and I make it the actual size of the piece. And that's what this is. So this, Nadia is 5'4" in real life, and she's 5'4" in the piece.
You do make very large quilts, don't you?
I do. Yeah. I do. I love large quilts. So I did the drawing, and then I started painting it. And this is as I'm painting it. And in reality, the drawing has information on it, but I kind of change it and make it up as I go while I'm painting. And so this is the painting as I was going, and there you can see her face is now finished.
So you had classical art training?
I actually kind of. I went to school for early childhood education, and then I went to a small state college, and then I transferred schools to be close to a boyfriend. You know, we all do that at age 19. I had taken 2 art classes, but I'd never taken art before that at my first college, and I got A's in both of them. Wow. And so when I transferred, supposedly in early childhood education, they looked at my grades, and I had A's in my art, and I didn't have A's in the other. And they put me in the interior design department. And then I ended up taking that and studying drawing and interior design and all of that. But the big thing is, I found a passion in drawing. And so I would, when I finished college, I had very few drawing classes, never had painting, never had sculpture, never had any fine arts like that. But I found my passion, and I started just buying books and doing all of the lessons. Okay. And so for years, I would just do this to teach myself to draw, and that's how I learned to draw.
Oh, you can certainly draw beautifully. I just looking at the cloth, and it's just so beautiful. It's really lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
And
so the last one, if we could go back to the last one.
Yeah.
This is simply the painting. So there's no quilting in this whatsoever. And it's painted in 6 values of the hot pink, from the very lightest pink to a black with pink in it.
This is all dye painted.
It's painted with thickened dyes that are Procyon fiber reactive dyes. And this was in the year 2015. I had been researching quotes about women, and I started quilting in my quotes. And you can see in there, it says, "We can do it," "Protect women's health," "Well-behaved women seldom make history." And I had quite a few quotes. And then in July of 2015, I just got stuck. I just stopped working on it, and I couldn't figure it out. And I finally realized that it had become a technical piece. I had lost the emotion that I had felt when I dreamed it. I decided to put the crows in it. And so I actually drew 7 crows, and they're drawn in here. And in order to put them in there, I had to rip out a good part of the quilting. But I did it, and there you can see the drawings of some of the crows. And in the background, you'll see that there are lines there. Those lines are where the quotes will go. And so there are 7 crows. And once I realized that the crows were really what I wanted to do, then it became much easier. But between the time that I drew the crows on in August of 2015 and when I started working on it again, because I put it away until May of 2018 because I worked on another project. I worked on my exhibition and coloring book, Stories of West Africa. And once I finished that, then I came back to this, and our world had changed. And there was the Me Too movement and the pussy hats with the, the pink ears. And so hot pink.
Before your time, as usual.
Well, one of the things that I have finally come to accept, and I can say it out loud now and without being really embarrassed, is many of my dreams are prophetic. And when I make them into actual quilts, they are usually a couple of years earlier than whatever they're about happens. Yes. And there you can see, I put this photo in there because you can see in the body of the crow where I had to pull out the quilting.
Do you have a trick for getting rid of the stitching marks?
I actually do. I have I'm in my studio, so this is a soft white eraser. Mm-hmm. And it's called a Factis, Factis, and it's extra soft. And if you pull out your stitching, if you just erase over top of your holes, it moves the fibers around and it takes away your holes.
Great, because I do a lot of unstitching, so that's very good to know.
I do a lot of unstitching. I do. I am a master at it. It's the one thing I can say I'm a master.
The quotes that you've written, you've just freehand quilted them along the lines that you've pre-drawn?
No, I actually wrote them out with Prismacolor pencil. I mark all of my quilts using Prismacolor pencil because it's not permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I quilt it. And I changed colors as my background changed because I did not want you to see the quilting until you approached it. I didn't want it to interfere with the imagery of the crows and Nadia. And so first put it in.
Prismacolor pencils are just the standard.
Yep, just your plain old Prismacolor pencils. This is also what I draw on when I'm tracing my drawing onto my fabric to paint it. I use the Prismacolor pencils too because they erase right off with a Factus eraser, and they're not permanent. They will wash out when you wash out your excess dye. So this is the first crow that I worked on, and he's done with 8 or 9 different colors of gray and black and white. All of the crows are facing into Nadia, and there you can see him finished. And there are 400 quotes about women in this. And if you go to my website and you look up this piece, Equality, all of the quotes are on the website. Well, I put this one in there because it kind of gives people an idea of the size of it and how I work. There you can see the Prismacolor pencils and of the drawing, and I am quilting the stitching of the bird. And so that's as much information as I give myself. And then if you look at the beak, it looks like little areas. Those areas will be changes of color because the beak has a sheen on it. And so that's where I'll change my thread color.
Now that we can see a close-up of your needle, what machine do you use?
Well, this, I had always used my Bernina 1230. I probably have 100,000 miles on my Bernina 1230. But in 2017, I got a Q20, and that's the 20-inch throat. And I have been quilting. I use both that and my Bernina 1230. So this quilt, Equality, was done on the Q20. It is a larger machine, but what I really like about it, it's got a domestic needle. If you look at the industrial machines, the needle actually goes down 1/8 of an inch deeper. And so I use African fabrics on the back of all of my quilts, and for some reason it breaks the fibers on them. And the domestic needle doesn't do it because it does not go down nearly as far. And so I just like the look of it. For the first time, I am quilting with a larger, but it's a sit-down machine. To move the fabric, then to move the machine.
Can you see behind me? Also a Q20.
Oh, you have a Q20 also. Aren't they wonderful?
Oh, yes. I'm so pleased that I got it.
Okay, so I put this one in here because you can see that some of the crows are finished. The way that I did this, I would do some of the words and then I would do some of the crow because I do the crow after the words, but I couldn't leave a big empty space. Like the big crow behind Mila's head, that's a really big crow. It's a really big one. And I could not have left the whole thing blank. So I would do the words and then part of the crow and then the words and part of the crow. And so I kind of wanted to show that. And you can see how the quilt has distorted with the amount of quilting on it. On the left, to the left of Nadia, you can see that it's tighter than to the right of it. And so my quilts will pull up quite a bit with my quilting because I sometimes will have as much as 25,000 yards of fabric in a thread in my.
I think your quilts are from your heart. They all mean a lot to you. Is how I feel about it.
You know, each one of these is slightly different in color because it depended upon if I took it right by the machine. You can see on the left hand side there's a lot of light there because it was probably just under my machine, so it changed the color a little bit. Yes. I take pictures of my quilts every single day at the end of the day, so I have a progression. Yeah, so there you can see the large crow, and I actually quilted, I got all the writing done on the right-hand side, then I did Mila and Nadia, and then I did the quilting on the left-hand side. Because I always start in the middle and then I work out, no exceptions, because it's especially with something like this, because the crows were heavily quilted and the people were heavily quilted. And then in the background, I had some writing that was 1 inch high. So there was a really big difference between how much quilting there was in one area versus another area, because the goal is to have it be kind of straight.
It's a goal,
So
good
there,
goal. Yeah.
it's a good goal. I agree with you. So anyway, this is the big crow, and I just really like this big crow. I like the words behind him: silencing women silences justice, stop violence against all women, trust women. There were so many wonderful quotes, just so many. And there were serious quotes, and there were funny quotes, and there were quotes with statistics in them. I found a really, really big difference in the style of quotes that I could find in 2014 versus the style of quotes I found in 2018. With the women's movement. There were a lot more encouraging quotes, a lot more funny quotes about women. Before that, it was pretty much, there were a lot more statistics, a lot more historical quotes. So I found that to be interesting
Yeah.
also.
I think that's also one of the things that I enjoy about your quilts is that you have that initial sort of image when you see the quilt, but you're absolutely drawn into it immediately because you just know there's more detail that needs to be seen. And I can imagine the crowds around this quilt wanting to read all the quotes.
That was one of the most fun things when I was in Houston, was being able to read the quotes, because people were too far away to see them. So I had all of them, and I would stand in front of it and I'd say, well, do you guys want funny quilts? You want radical quilts? And they always said funny. And I said, okay, well, we'll do a mixture. It was just really funny to see people's reaction. But one of the things I always try to do in my quilts is I try to do a graphic image, so a kind of something that hits you, but enough that you're drawn into it for the gift of the quilting. It's like a gift of seeing something else if you're willing to go close. And that's kind of how I try to look at my quilt. I put this one in there because I love this quote: girl, unless he wears a diaper, you can't change him. I just thought that was a funny one. This is a detail that I really like, because I like the fact that Nadia has this look of just not even interested, and the crow he's just there in her space. And crows mean change, they're mystical, and I really wanted her to have this strength, like she was taking it from the crows. Anyway, there she is with Mila.
And here we have the completed quilt.
And so you can see the 7 crows. The crows are quilted, are created only with quilting. As you saw, they were drawn in, and so they're not painted at all. I wanted that transparent look of the crows. I wanted you to see her first, and then see the crows, and thirdly, to see the quotes. So that was why I chose to do them like that.
So this next slide here is different. Tell me about this slide.
Okay, the reason I put these in here is because I started creating, I love to do faces. And when I would teach a class, I would ask the students, what would you like me to paint as a demo? And I would either paint a nose or lips or an eye, something like that. And I would just borrow somebody's dye tray and use the colors that they had. And then I would finish it off with just any colors that were around, any abstract colors. And then somebody would wash it as when they washed out their painting, and then they would bring it back, and I would then quilt that eye. But the eye I would draw in front of everybody, and so I didn't claim that it was going to be a perfect eye. And then I would take it home, and I put a border on it, as I did with this one. And there I chose this because it has crows in it. I drew the 3 crows in it, and then I started quilting it. You can see in the next slide, there it is with the crows in it. And this one is called 3 Crows because, as I said, I live out in the country. We live with lots of woods around us. And one morning when I went out into the yard, I found a young crow that was injured. And I brought the crow in, I put him in a shoebox, brought him in, and I contacted an animal rehab place, and they couldn't take him until the evening. And so he was in the house. I had him in the bathtub with the shower door closed all day long. And I would come and check on him every so often, and he would just look at me. And then I took him to the rehab place, and they were able to cure him. And about 6 weeks later, they released him. And about 10 days after that, a crow appeared right near our back deck. It would be there every day with two friends, and they would watch me. And when I would go and walk the dogs, I would get in the car and I would drive, 3 minutes from the house, and I could see the crows following me. And then they would follow me as I walked. And then I would come back and they would follow me back. And my husband said that when I would go away to teach, they wouldn't be there. But as soon as I would come back, they would come back. And they stayed very close to me for about 4 years.
Wow.
So, and I made this piece and I called it Three Crows because of these crows that were always around me. So I just thought that was fascinating. And I seem to have a kind of a relationship with birds, especially birds come into my life a lot. Owls and hawks and crows and vultures.
I mean, I love this piece, and the fact that it started off just as a little demo sample in a class is actually even more special. I think that's really wonderful.
It shows what you can do with quilting. And this is not, I don't consider this thread painted. To me, thread painting means you don't see the fabric behind it, and that you use a hoop. I don't ever use a hoop. I go through all 3 layers, and you can always see my fabric behind my quilting because I like that transparency look.
So how are you coping with your previous commitments? I know you have a class that you've been running for 10 years now, which sounds amazing. Have you as a personal mentor for that length of time? And I think you were, again, a woman before your time in terms of online classes and things.
Well, I feel very lucky because I started doing these 10-year classes back in the year 2000, and students study with me for 10 years, and we do 3 years of drawing, a year of color, 2 years of design, 2 years of thread work, a year of neutrals, and a year of light. And so it's all art-based, and you could do it with any medium. Some people will do it with painting with me. They don't all do it with quilting, but most of them do. And so it's become very close as a group. And I have 6 groups like that, and I go once a year to them. And then if somebody couldn't make it one year because they had a health issue or somebody in their family was ill or something like that, about 6 years ago, I started having them do it remotely. So I would have 12 people in the class doing the regular exercises and everything. And then I would have up to 5 people who were doing it remotely. And they were participating in all the critiques and the discussions and everything like that. And so when this coronavirus hit, it was not a huge jump for me to start putting them all on Zoom. And so I am now doing independent study classes, which actually work out really, really well. Students work on anything that they want. They can't, we know ahead of time what they're going to be working on. I have 15 people in the group, no more than that. And they, everybody, they could be dye painting, they could be quilting, they could be designing, they could be piecing. I don't have any requirements because I find that the most important thing for people is the community. To be in a community where you're accepted, where you feel comfortable, where you talk about art. And so they're on all day long, but they're doing their own thing. And if they need me, they call me. I have scheduled demonstrations. They can watch them if they want to, or they don't have to. Sometimes people would just be listening and they're working. I'm not seeing what they're doing, but then we go over the work twice a day and they participate in that if they want to or they don't. Did one in May and it was so successful. I scheduled another one in August, and now I'm going to be doing one from the 18th through the 22nd of October. I really am liking it. Some of my students who have been coming to my independent study classes for years say they actually like this even better because they're in their studio. They have everything they need right there. This was supposed to be my year where I had a solo exhibition that was supposed to happen in Japan that was canceled, and my exhibition Stories of West Africa was traveling, and that's stuck, and so everything has kind of come to a standstill. But I'm healthy, my family is healthy, and I'm thankful for that. And so I'm trying to remain focused, doing things online and trying to create art.
Great. All the information about your classes and things are on your website. I'd like to really thank you, Hollis. It's been fascinating learning so much more about the quilt. I feel like I've had my own little mini tutorial, which has been wonderful, especially on how to unpick. That was really great. So thank you so much for giving up your time today. And I'm sure everyone's really going to enjoy this video.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It was such a pleasure to speak with you, and it's an honor to be on your show. And I hope that everybody was pleased with what they saw, and I hope you learned something. It was fun for me.
Great. Thanks, Hollis. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.